What if 60 seconds could give you a clear somatic answer about who you are? What if a simple, gentle test of your own body could let you know whether a forgotten seal of origin still rests within you? This is not a promise of miracles. It is an invitation, a quick, careful activation, a flash activation, to check 3 ancient points of recognition and see what happens for you in the moment. Before we begin, a brief, important note about sources. The practice I'm about to share draws from Gnostic materials recovered in the 20th century, most famously the manuscripts found at Nag Hammadi in 1945 and texts like the Gospel of Philip. These are historical documents associated with a particular stream of early Christian thought often labeled Gnostic. They are not canonical scripture for mainstream Christianity. They belong to a distinct tradition with its own language and symbols. When I speak of the monad, of marks, or of archons, I am describing ideas within that tradition as a way to frame this experiential practice, not to replace anyone's faith, nor to make medical or definitive spiritual claims. What follows is an embodied exercise informed by that tradition, offered as a subjective self-check you may try for yourself. Settle now into a comfortable position. Sit upright with your spine supported, or lie down if that feels safer. Keep your movements gentle. If at any moment you feel discomfort, stop and rest. If anything abnormal appears repeatedly, consult a healthcare professional. This is gentle, exploratory work, soft touch, light attention, and never forceful. The Gnostic picture that frames this technique is compact and poetic. It speaks of a primordial source, called the monad, a single originating light that fragments its presence into many human forms. Those fragments carry a subtle signature, a memory of origin called anamnesis. Opposing that remembrance are layers of obscuration, a constructed world governed by a secondary architect sometimes called the demiurge, and subtle interference patterns named archons, attentive disturbances that seek to distract us from direct recognition. In the language of those texts, certain places in the body hold marks or signatures of the monad. Whether you take that cosmology literally or metaphorically, the practice treats the body as a map. 3 points, 3 kinds of confirmation you can check with your own fingers and your own breath. You are about to test 3 marks: the base of the skull, the outer edge of the hand near the little finger and wrist, and the center of the chest at the sternum. Many who work with these traditions describe these spots as origin, perception, and command, respectively. Think of them as anchors for memory: the origin point where the spark entered, the perception point that opens inner sight, and the center that supports declaration, your voice in the world. Remember, these are subjective signals. Some people feel something strongly, others sense nothing at all, and neither result diminishes your worth or your spiritual identity. We will move methodically, with breath and gentle contact. Keep your attention kind and curious rather than eager or judgmental. If skepticism arises, if a thought appears telling you this is nonsense or that you're being fooled, note it as a predictable interference. In the Gnostic idiom, we call those responses archonic noise. They often appear precisely at the threshold of recognition. Your job is not to argue with them. Your job is to notice and return to sensation. If you're ready, place one hand on your belly briefly and take a long, slow breath in. Fill the belly, let the ribs expand, then let the air leave the body fully. Do that again. Breathe in gently, breathe out slowly, soften your jaw, and allow the shoulders to drop. Let your eyes be half closed or fully closed, whatever helps you attend inward. Now we begin with the first check, the base of the skull, origin. Tilt your head slightly forward so the back of your neck softly lengthens. Using the fingers of one hand, very lightly rest the pads of your fingers at the indentation where the skull meets the top of the neck. If you find the exact spot, you'll feel a shallow hollow at the base of the skull. If that's unclear, simply place your fingers where the skull feels like it ends and the soft tissue of the neck begins. Keep the pressure minimal, more like a light rest of the fingertips than a push. Make a tiny, soft circular motion with your fingers, as if you were tracing the edge of a bowl. The movement should be slow and tender, no force. Attend to the sensation where your skin meets your fingers, and then allow your attention to sink a fraction deeper, as if listening from the inside. What might you notice here? Some describe a subtle warmth, a small pocket-like presence, a sense of a hinge or a center, an almost magnetic inward tug. Others feel nothing at all or only the touch of their fingers on skin. Those are both valid. If a thought rises, "This is silly, I'm imagining it," acknowledge it softly, and return your attention to the contact at the base of your skull, to the rhythm of your breathing, to the steadiness of your hand. Notice whether your breath changes with the touch. Does it deepen, soften, or hold? That gentle shift is itself a type of information. Ease your fingers away after a few breaths. Keep your posture aligned. Now prepare your hand for the second mark, perception. For the second check, extend the hand that feels most natural to you. Many prefer the non-dominant hand. We will explore the outer edge of the hand, the side that runs from the little finger down toward the wrist. Gently curl the hand so the edge is exposed. The specific place to rest your attention is the band between the base of the little finger and the outer wrist area, where the flesh and the tendons create a subtle ridge. Again, use just the pads of your fingers or the flat of your thumb. Soft contact only. You may trace the line slowly from the base of the pinky toward the wrist, or lightly press and release along that edge. There is no need to probe or force anything open. Think of your touch as listening. While your fingers rest there, let your awareness include the sensations of the hand itself. Temperature, texture, the tiny movements of breath in the chest. Some people report a subtle prickle, a feeling of increased space behind the eyes, or a widening of inner sight. Others feel nothing but the reassuring presence of touch. If a mental voice says, "You must be imagining this," treat that voice like a passing cloud. Label it and return to the hand, to the breath, and to the felt sense. If you have a wristband, ring, or tight clothing that interferes, loosen it now. Keep everything comfortable and unrestricted. When you have spent a few breaths on the lateral hand, withdraw your attention slowly and bring your open palm to the center of the chest for the third check, command. Place the heel of your hand gently over your sternum, right between the collarbones, just above the heart. This is not the place to press. Rest the hand with light contact, as if feeling for a vibration. Breathe into your chest so that each inhale gives the hand a gentle lift and the exhale allows it to settle. Imagine that the palm is listening to an inner resonance, like placing an ear against a wooden table to hear a soft thrum. At this center point, people sometimes experience a sensation that can be named as warmth, a soft tightening, or a sense of words landing in the chest before they are spoken. Others notice nothing more than their hand on skin. Any of these responses is normal. If you feel a sudden uncomfortable pain, release the hand and rest. If you notice a surge of emotion, tears, a rush of relief, or sudden laughter, let it pass through with compassionate attention. These responses are not judgments. They are part of what moving toward memory can look like. Now that you have touched all 3 points with gentle attention, return to a neutral stance. Keep your breathing even. Before we move to the activation phrase, I'll offer a short invitation to share. If this practice is calling to you, try the 3 checks now and, if you feel anything at all, even a whisper, type the single word recognition in the comments. A single word response helps create a subtle map of experience for everyone here. If you prefer not to comment, that's perfectly fine. This is for your inner work. We will now bring them together in a quick, embodied sequence that should fit within a minute when done with calm intent. If at any point you feel unsure, return to gentle breathing and slow the movements. You may keep your eyes closed or open lightly. You do not need to accomplish a specific sensation. You are experimenting. Begin by placing the fingers of one hand at the base of the skull, origin. With the other hand, touch the outer edge of the opposite hand, perception. Then bring the palm of one hand to the center of your chest, command. If this feels awkward, use one hand to touch the 3 points in a soft sequential flow: base of skull, lateral hand, center chest. The intention is gentle, directed attention more than mechanical precision. Once your hands are positioned, let your breath deepen by itself for a moment. Feel the contact points as anchors. Now, aloud and with clarity, speak this concise declaration: I am of the monad. I open sight now. Say it with steady breath and present tense certainty. You may repeat the phrase once more if you wish. The declaration is not a spell meant to coerce. It is an embodied statement that aligns your attention and voice with the memory language suggested by the tradition. Keep it simple, first person, and present. You are not commanding a supernatural entity. You are claiming recognition within your own system. As you speak the phrase, notice subtle changes. Do you feel a quickening at the base of the skull? A soft widening behind the eyes? A settling or resonance at the center of chest? Some people report a slight inner glow, like a candle that brightens briefly. Others experience a momentary clarity of thought, or the sudden appearance of an image. Many experience nothing dramatic at all, just a calm and steadying sense. These outcomes are diverse and personal. Do not attach value or judgment to any particular result. If a skeptical narrative rises loudly in your mind, "This is nonsense, what a placebo," hear it as what it is, an interference pattern. The presence of doubt often reveals that you are at the threshold of a change. Sometimes the archonic noise grows louder right before you feel something new. When that happens, do not engage. Acknowledge the thought as a passing thing, then return attention to the touch points and the breath. Repeat the declaration if that helps to re-anchor your focus. After this single activation, lower your hands and rest in stillness for a few breaths. Notice how your breath feels. Notice whether the chest is more open, whether the mind feels slightly quieter, whether the neck feels small and settled. If you noticed anything, warmth, clarity, imagery, a soft emotional shift, write it down as a single word or a short phrase. A tiny notation is enough. Warmth, stillness, image of light, nothing. Over time, these small data points create a map of your responses. Some practical notes about interpretation. If you felt something, welcome it with gratitude and curiosity. This is a subjective verification, an inner observation that may indicate a reprise of memory or simply a natural psychosomatic response. If you felt nothing, you are not lessened. Many factors influence momentary sensitivity: stress, fatigue, medication, or simply the presence of strong mental resistance. The practice can be repeated on other days, with attention to preparation, rest, hydration, and a calm environment often deepen subtle perception. If you are worried that what you felt was only imagination, consider this. Imagination and perception are not always opposites. In many contemplative traditions, imagination is an instrument for discovery. Whether the sensation originates in what we culturally call imagination, or in a non-ordinary opening, it remains useful if it clarifies your inner landscape and draws you toward more presence. We are not collecting trophies of supernatural proof. We are practicing an embodied way of recognizing ourselves. Because the ideas we've used to frame this technique, the monad, the demiurge, archons, belong to a particular early tradition that diverges from mainstream Christian doctrine, it's important to emphasize choice and context. If you belong to a faith tradition that interprets these symbols differently, you may reframe them in terms that align with your spiritual language. The core method is somatic attention, breathing, gentle touch, and a concise present tense affirmation. Those elements are the portable, ecological components of the activation. If you felt a strong emotional release or imagery you do not want to sit with alone, consider reaching out to a trusted friend, mentor, or a trained contemplative guide. Intense experiences deserve care. If you experienced persistent physical pain during any touch, stop the practice and consult a medical professional. This exercise is not a medical procedure. It is an exploratory somatic practice. For those who wish to continue cultivating this sensitivity, a few practical suggestions support integration. Keep a small notebook near you and note your single-word responses after each practice. Return to the 3 checks once a day for a week, paying attention to small shifts rather than expecting dramatic transformation. Notice patterns. Do certain days produce warmer sensations? Does your state of mind before practice, rested or anxious, predict outcomes? Use that information to become a better observer of your own system. Over time, many practitioners find that the simple act of naming and gently feeling creates a growing trust in their own inner verification. The Gnostic idea of anamnesis, remembering, is not a one-time event, but a gentle reclaiming. The body remembers in small increments: breath, touch, clarity. This practice aims to cultivate that remembering without promising an absolute dramatic revelation. We must also speak plainly about the cultural context. Read the texts, like the Gospel of Philip and the wider Nag Hammadi corpus, with historical curiosity. These manuscripts were part of lively early debates about spiritual authority and direct knowledge, whether the path to the divine required institutional mediation, or whether individuals could access direct recognition. They were ultimately marginalized by emerging orthodox structures, not because they lacked intensity, but because they offered a different account of spiritual access. A modern practice inspired by them is not an act of rebellion for its own sake. It is a choice to explore embodied methods of recognition in a plural spiritual landscape. If you are part of a community or seek one, consider sharing your one-word notes with a small group of people who honor confidentiality and curiosity. Hearing another person say, recognition, or calm, can normalize a delicate opening. It helps to remember that community is not about proving anything to anyone else. It is about companionship on a sometimes strange path. Before we close, a final practical repetition you can integrate anytime you need a quick recentering. Place one hand at the base of your skull and one hand over your sternum. Take 3 deliberate breaths, and on the third, exhale, speak once, quietly and steadily. I am of the monad. I open sight now. Allow the words to be simple and present. Watch how your breath and the contact soften. Keep any judgments at a distance and be with the felt result, whatever it may be. This 60-second flash activation is only a beginning, a doorway to exploration, not an endpoint. If today you felt a small affirmation, welcome it. If today nothing occurred, that too is an honest answer. Both are data for your unfolding. If this brief activation resonated with you and you'd like to deepen the practice with guided progressions, gentle breath patterns to help you sustain attention, journaling prompts to map long-term shifts, and ways to work with subtle internal resistance, subscribe to the channel and join the next activation session where we expand this into safe, paced training. If you found value here, consider sharing this with someone who is curious and respectful of personal experience. Keep the rite simple. Practice, note, and return with patience. Remember, this is your body, your attention, your map. The 3 marks, origin, perception, command, are offered as an instrument for your own recognition. Whether your experience is immediate or gradual, you are participating in a long human practice of finding home within the self. Go gently, be curious, keep an open, discerning heart.